Gregory Peck was born Eldred Gregory Peck on April 5, 1916, in La Jolla, California, into a life that would begin quietly and unfold with remarkable dignity. His parents' divorce when he was 6 years old shaped his early years, and he was largely raised by his grandmother, a steady presence who instilled discipline and moral clarity. Peck grew up reserved, observant, and thoughtful, traits that later became hallmarks of both his personality and his screen presence. Academically inclined, he attended San Diego State University before transferring to the University of California, Berkeley, where he studied English and pre-medicine. It was at Berkeley, almost by accident, that Peck discovered acting through campus theatre. What began as curiosity quickly became conviction. Drawn to the emotional honesty and intellectual rigor of performance, he made the difficult decision to abandon medical school. It was a leap of faith driven not by ambition, but by instinct. A quiet confidence that storytelling, not science, was where he belonged. From stage boards to silver screens, Gregory Peck's professional journey began not under studio lights, but on the stage, where he honed his craft in regional theatre and touring productions. His commanding height, resonant voice, and understated intensity set him apart early, earning him attention in New York and eventual roles on Broadway. By the early 1940s, Hollywood took notice. Peck made his film debut in Days of Glory in 1944, and his ascent was swift but never flashy. He projected something rare: moral gravity without arrogance, strength without cruelty. Audiences trusted him. Directors relied on him. He quickly became synonymous with characters defined by conscience and restraint. Unlike many stars of his era, Peck resisted caricature. He chose roles that reflected inner conflict, ethical struggle, and human vulnerability. Whether portraying soldiers, journalists, lawyers, or romantics, he brought a seriousness that elevated every story he touched. His rise wasn't fueled by scandal or spectacle, but by consistency and credibility, qualities that would define his career for nearly 6 decades: Atticus Finch and moral immortality. In 1962, Gregory Peck delivered the performance that would define not only his career, but American cinema itself. As Atticus Finch in To Kill a Mockingbird, Peck embodied moral courage with quiet power. The role required restraint, empathy, and an unwavering belief in justice, qualities Peck possessed naturally. As the Southern lawyer defending an innocent black man in a deeply segregated society, he portrayed decency not as heroics, but as duty. The performance earned him the Academy Award for Best Actor, and later led the American Film Institute to name Atticus Finch the greatest hero in film history. Yet Peck never treated the role as a personal triumph. He saw it as a responsibility. Letters poured in from teachers, lawyers, and parents who used the character as a moral compass. The line between actor and character disappeared, leaving behind a standard of integrity that still resonates generations later. A life of conviction. Beyond the camera, Gregory Peck's commitment to justice extended far beyond his film roles. He was a vocal opponent of the Hollywood blacklist during the McCarthy era, refusing to remain silent when fear threatened artistic freedom. He supported civil rights causes, opposed nuclear proliferation, and spoke out against war, particularly during the Vietnam era. Peck did not posture or perform activism. His advocacy was measured, thoughtful, and sincere. He believed that fame carried obligation, and he used his platform carefully, always grounding his public statements in empathy rather than outrage. His humanitarian work earned him numerous honors, including the Presidential Medal of Freedom and the Jean Hersholt Humanitarian Award. These recognitions reflected not just his public service, but the respect he commanded across political and cultural lines. Peck once remarked that real strength was endurance, not dominance. a belief evident in both his activism and his artistry. He lived his values consistently, even when doing so required personal or professional risk. Marriage, fatherhood, and private struggles. In 1942, Gregory Peck married Greta Kukkonen, a Finnish-American woman of grace and composure. Together, they raised 3 sons during the most demanding years of Peck's rising fame. While the public saw glamour and success, the private realities of long shoots, constant travel, and growing pressure took their toll. Greta provided stability for the family, but after more than a decade together, the marriage ended in divorce in 1955. Peck later acknowledged this period as one of emotional reckoning. Years later, the family endured profound loss with the death of Peck's eldest son, Jonathan, an event that deeply marked him. Peck spoke openly about grief, rejecting stoicism in favor of honesty. He admitted that some losses do not heal, only change shape. This vulnerability revealed the man behind the icon, a father who loved deeply, mourned openly, and carried sorrow quietly. It was a reminder that strength does not exclude pain, but learns to live alongside it. Ingrid Bergman and an unfinished chapter. During the filming of Alfred Hitchcock's Spellbound in 1945, Gregory Peck formed a deep emotional bond with Ingrid Bergman. Their on-screen chemistry was undeniable, but what lingered beyond the film was something more intimate and restrained. Both were married at the time, and both understood the limits imposed by circumstance and conscience. Decades later, in a rare moment of reflection late in life, Peck acknowledged the depth of that connection. He described Bergman not as a regret, but as a presence that remained, a reminder that some relationships, though brief, leave permanent impressions. He spoke of her intelligence, warmth, and luminous humanity with tenderness rather than longing. It was not a confession meant to rewrite history, but one that honored emotional truth. Peck never diminished the life he built afterward, nor the love he shared with his wife. Instead, he framed the memory as part of a larger human experience, proof that the heart can hold complexity without betrayal. A lifelong partnership with Veronique. In 1955, Gregory Peck married Veronique Pisani, a French journalist he had first met during an interview years earlier. Their relationship was grounded in intellectual respect, shared values, and emotional steadiness. Veronique was not dazzled by celebrity. She saw Peck clearly and supported him without losing herself. Together, they raised 2 children and built a partnership that endured for nearly 50 years. Veronique remained a constant presence through professional triumphs, political activism, and personal loss. Peck often credited her with grounding him, describing her as his anchor in an unpredictable world. Their marriage was marked not by spectacle, but by companionship, a shared life of conversation, principle, and quiet affection. Unlike the myths of Hollywood romance, theirs was built on longevity and trust. In later years, as Peck slowed down and reflected on his life, it was Veronique who stood beside him, not as a footnote, but as a central chapter in the story of his humanity. Legacy through family and art. Gregory Peck's legacy lived on not only through his films, but through his children and grandchildren. His daughter Cecilia Peck became a respected documentary filmmaker, focusing on social justice and political history, an echo of her father's lifelong commitments. His grandson Ethan Peck would later enter acting, carrying a striking resemblance and a quiet seriousness that recalled Gregory's early years. Yet Peck never measured legacy by lineage alone. He believed influence was defined by values passed forward: kindness, responsibility, and courage. He encouraged independence in his children, supporting their paths without imposing his shadow. To Peck, family was not an extension of fame, but a refuge from it. Even as his public reputation grew, he remained deeply private about home life. What mattered most to him was not being remembered as a star, but as a decent man who tried, imperfectly but earnestly, to live with integrity in a complicated world. The final years and a graceful farewell. Gregory Peck spent his later years with dignity, reflection, and continued engagement in humanitarian causes. Though age softened his physical presence, his moral clarity remained sharp. On June 12, 2003, he passed away peacefully at the age of 87, with his wife Veronique by his side. His death marked the end of an era, but not the end of his influence. Tributes poured in from around the world, honoring not only his performances, but the example he set. At his funeral, actor Brock Peters, his co-star in To Kill a Mockingbird, delivered a deeply moving eulogy that underscored the film's enduring relevance and Peck's personal authenticity. He was laid to rest in Los Angeles, a city that had witnessed his rise and respected his restraint. Gregory Peck left behind more than a body of work. He left a standard of decency, courage, and quiet strength that continues to challenge and inspire.